Melanie Ezell is a mother, a yogi, a surfer, an author, and so many more things. And she's also someone who has been living with stage 4 ovarian cancer since 2022. She shares many of those life lessons she's learned and observations she's made on this journey through very insightful posts on her Instagram feed. And there you can also see your incredible surfing skills and meet her precious son, Velzy, who may be the cutest little boy in the world. Melanie, thank you for being on the podcast today. It's nice to have you.
Thanks, Ashley. I'm honored.
So I'd like to start by if you could give us like some insight into your life pre-cancer. A lot of obviously what you have on social is centered around that. Obviously, what was life like pre-cancer?
So I grew up in Michigan, and I moved to California for graduate school. And in California, I became obsessed with surfing. And I had studied math in graduate school and worked in the industry for a while for a software company, and ended up wanting to be by the beach and working with people's bodies. So I opened a yoga studio. I was teaching yoga full time, and doing some personal training and nutritional counseling and surfing a lot. And I ended up traveling for a while, and found during my travels that a lot of the surfers that I was encountering ended up in Hawaii. So I have been living in Hawaii since 2017, and I'm married and I have a 5-year-old. So just before cancer, I was working as a massage therapist and traveling, surfing a lot, writing for a surf blog, and spending a lot of time with my son, spending a lot of time in and near the ocean.
Yeah, you've been your pictures. I mean, I feel like I've been on a journey around the world as I've been kind of getting to know you through your Instagram feed. It's amazing. You've done some amazing travels. Um, so you have the BRCA1 genetic mutation, is that right?
Yeah,
As does, and your sister does as well, right?
exactly.
Um, did she also have ovarian cancer?
Yeah, so after I got diagnosed, she decided to have a preventative surgery, a risk reducing
Okay.
surgery to have
Yeah.
her ovaries removed. And when they opened her up to take her ovaries out, they found that she already had cancer beginning.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did learning that you had that mutation, did you feel like you were just kind of, it was a matter of time, like you were waiting for the diagnosis, or did you not give it much weight until you started having symptoms?
I think I oscillated back and forth. Immediately, there were a lot of things that had to be done when I found out about the BRCA genetic mutation. Um, I needed biannual screenings for both breast and ovarian cancer, so it was a lot of doctor's appointments and things to sort out. But when I found out, it was I think 2015, and I was still living in California, and my life was just kind of at a very low point. My business was failing, my marriage was failing, I had an eating disorder, my body was failing, everything was sort of falling apart for me. And when I discovered that I had this genetic mutation, a part of me was like, whatever, no big deal. I'm super healthy. I'm just going to keep living my life. And my doctors were not at that point recommending any preventative surgeries because I was still only in my early 30s and I still wanted to have kids and breastfeed. So part of me was just like, whatever, I'll get the screenings, no big deal. But then another part of me, maybe a more subconscious part, was like, life is short and I need to seize the day now. So I remember meeting with the doctor right after I found out about that. And she was like, you know what? Just live your life, enjoy your life, have fun. And I walked out of the parking lot, and I had been fighting with my ex. We were in the process, I had already separated from him. And I just sent him a text as I walked out of that appointment, and I was like, "You'll have divorce papers within the next couple weeks." And I listed my business for sale within the next couple of weeks. And I was already on the tail end of my eating disorder. Like I was already beginning to work into recovery, but recovery, I knew it was going to require me to gain a lot of weight. And I didn't want to be in my old kind of environment where I was a nutritionist and a personal trainer. And I just didn't feel that I had the strength to let my body change in front of that professional environment. So I just I burned it all down, and I left California and I traveled and I ate and I surfed, and so I think that finding out about, I think just coming face to face with the idea of mortality really made
Mm-hmm.
me shift my priorities.
Mm-hmm. And so, with, given that sort of, burn it all down and go live your life kind of mentality, when you were finally diagnosed, how did you orient yourself with that mentally, emotionally? You were also a new mom at that point, or fairly new mom at that point.
Yeah, I my son was just barely 2 when I was diagnosed, and Um, again, it was a mix of feelings. There was a part of me that could see this kind of like golden thread running through all of the hardships that I had faced in my life. And a part of me was like, okay, I know this is happening through me, not to me. Um, I knew that there was a reason for it and that it was going to be. I love challenges, I love accomplishing things. And so I was kind of like, okay, this is the next big wave that I'm going to surf. So there was a part of me that was excited. There was also a part of me that was almost like justified. Like I had been in all of this pain and wanting all of this help and not being able to ask for it. And so a part of me was like relieved that I could finally relax and not have to strive so hard. And then there was a big part of me that um, I really never thought it would happen to me. Like I knew about the diagnosis and or about the genetic mutation, but I thought I'm super healthy. I'm an athlete, and I was shocked that this was my reality, and it took a while, like days, before I was like, oh, this is actually happening to me. Um, and even through the first occurrence, because we knew right off the bat, the doctor told me chemo is 80% likely to put you into remission. And I was like, wait a minute. I just looked up the statistics last night and it said 17%. And he's like, no, 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 no. That's the 5 year survival rate. So you're 80% likely to go into remission. We're really good at putting you into remission. We're just not good at curing it. So the cancer is then going to come back. And the more times that it comes back, the harder it is to treat. And over the course of 5 to 10 years, the survival rate drops very low. And it wasn't really until my second occurrence of cancer that I really looked at mortality and really accepted, because sometimes people have one occurrence and then they move on from it. And I thought that was going to be me. And when it came back, I think it hit me much harder the second time, where it was like,
Really?
oh, I'm following the statistical pattern.
Yeah. Yeah. So you talk about, you've mentioned several times, at least in your social, that you don't like the words battling or fighting cancer, and it's almost like you are trying to create not an alliance, but sort of like an agreement with cancer, that you're going to both just kind of cohabitate in your body. Is there a reason for that? Is that just your nature? Is that how you are on all things? Like you prefer peace over, battle?
That's a really good question. I do think that is my nature now. I think, 15 years of yoga and you come to a place where you're like, you know what? No one wins in war. Like there literally
Mm-hmm.
are no winners.
Mm-hmm.
And also I recognize that cancer is my genetic tissue. It's not like a pathogen in my body. It's actually me. It's a part of
Yeah.
me. And I
Yeah.
think after I went through my eating disorder where I did treat my body as the enemy. I thought my desire to eat was this horrible thing living inside me, and I was raised in an environment that taught me that I had a sin nature and that the heart is deceitful and the body is evil. And so
A Christian
after I
household.
healed, yeah, exactly, evangelical Christianity. Um, when I healed from my eating disorder, the way that I healed from it was by trusting my body and trusting my urges and trusting my hunger. And I actually had to go through a period where if I was hungry, I ate whatever I was hungry for and as much of it as I wanted. And I actually just lived on oatmeal chocolate chip peanut butter cookies for 3 months straight. And I gained a lot of weight. And then eventually it ran its course and my body settled into an equilibrium. And that whole process made me understand that my body was my ally and anything that was happening in my body was actually adaptive. And so when cancer occurred, I knew that cancer was an adaptation to somehow, in its own way, try to keep me alive. It's just that it started, it got out of control, right? And so I knew that there was some sort of root cause that I wanted to try to find some sort of root cause to work with the cancer, not necessarily to cure it. I mean, that'd be great. Of course, I want that, but so that I'm not, this is genetic, and I believe in epigenetic changes. And I think there's a lot of science that supports that when we change, our children change. Whether that's nature or nurture, I'm not certain. But whatever patterns in my life contributed to this cancer, whether physiological or mental, emotional, spiritual, I wanted to cut ties with those patterns so I wasn't passing them on to my son. Whether or not cancer takes my body, I don't, I want to end the ancestral pain with me.
Gotcha. So speaking of your son, tell us about Velzy. He's 5.
He's 5. Yeah, I just started
Yeah.
kindergarten this year, and gosh, he's amazing. He is a very high energy, high spirited kid, and he's very strong willed and very emotional. So he's a ton of work. He didn't sleep for the first 2 years. It was like I was literally sleeping in 20 to 30-minute increments for 2 years straight.
Oh,
And
God, I'm so sorry.
it was so hard. I've never done anything
Yeah,
harder. In fact, chemo wasn't even as hard as having
man.
this kid. But
Yeah,
he's also just like so much love and so much fun. And he is a reason, like just last night, I talk to him about death all the time. I try and just like throw it in there at least once a week so he's familiar with the idea. And just last night, I was like, oh, if my body's not here, you're still going to feel my love. And let's practice feeling my love right now while we're not physically touching each other. And he started crying and he's like, you don't care about me, mom. If you're going to leave your body, you don't care about me. And it was so crazy to me that he felt that because that's
yeah,
literally the only thing that I care about is him and
yeah,
staying around for
yeah.
him. I could take it or leave it. Of course, most people have a survival instinct, but I really just want to be here for him. So, these are the conversations. It's good that we have these so that he understands, like, I can know what his fear is and he can know what mine is.
Well, I thought it was really sweet when, in anticipation of losing your hair, when you kind of eased into the shorter hair, no hair kind of thing. And you said because you don't want to, kind of ease him into it so it's not a shock. And I guess it sounds sort of similar. You're like, you don't, you're having these discussions to kind of ease him into it. Does he understand the gravity of this, or is he still too young?
I have never talked to him in the way I would talk to an adult. It's like, okay, mommy only has a few years left. I've
Right,
never
right,
done that.
right.
But I do, I do make references, and he knows that I am sick. Like
Hmm.
just last week, we were unloading the van, and I had two bags in my hand, and I said, "Oh, can you grab this cup or something small?" And he goes, "No, mom, which bag is the heaviest?" And he wanted to carry the heaviest bag for me. He said, "So that you can get up the stairs easier." And it's he knows he knows, and I also believe that both of our souls knew this even before incarnating into these bodies. He I think that's why he had trouble sleeping, and he was super attached to me. Like he couldn't go to any other caregiver, and still even like putting him in kindergarten was really hard. So I think there's a part of him that just knows that our time together is limited.
Yeah. I will say that, in looking back at your posts from, the first time you were diagnosed until now, there was a sense, there was a shift. See, not urgency isn't the right word, but early on it seemed like there was not intensity. I don't know the word I'm looking for, but now it's kind of like the most recent ones are more kind of at peace, or maybe I don't. Acceptance seems kind of trite, but do you think that, like, has there been an evolution in kind of how you feel about all of this? I mean, you've been diagnosed 3 times now, right?
Yeah, yep. And
Yeah.
currently my numbers are going in the wrong direction again. So I think every time that I get I get closer to whatever the end of this looks like, um, there is a struggle and there's a letting go, and then there's more peace that comes in on the backside of
Mm,
that tide.
okay.
And I read one book that was particularly helpful called Die Wise. That one really made it, I think it came to me at the exact right time where it just clicked with me that there is there's this picture that we call strength of the person who's days away from death and their breathing is struggling, and they're like, yeah, but I got this, I'm a fighter, I'm gonna make it to the end. And then they die, and the family is left reeling, like, but she was okay, she was just right here, and she wasn't complaining. And I don't want to leave my family in that way. And I don't want to deny what's happening to me, because when we accept mortality and we allow ourselves to think about it and we say the word death out loud, then the time that we have is so much more precious. And I want to live in that preciousness with my family rather than living in denial. And so, because I'm following this statistical pattern to a T, I'm trying to just accept what statistics are. And I don't always get that right. But when I do, it's like I already had more time than I should have. Like the fact that I woke up this morning is a gift. If it weren't for modern medicine, I wouldn't be here at all. And I wouldn't have had these last 3 years with my son, 3 years that gave him lasting memories of me, and 3 years to work on legacy projects like letters to him and a memoir that I'm writing and building
I was
these
going to ask
wheels.
you if you're going to turn all of your work into a memoir. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I've been
amazing.
working on that for the last year, and I have a first draft. So I'm really happy with it. I think it's been um, for two reasons: a legacy project for him, and also a way of looking at my own self in a very clear mirror and seeing my role in the pain that's in my life, not just cancer, but the pain that we all carry. Is like, okay, what don't I want to pass on to him, and what changes do I still have left to make so I can leave him the brightest future possible. So yeah, it's been a really, really healing project for me.
That's awesome. What do you think has been the most surprising source of comfort or support during this entire experience?
That's a great question. I think the little things have been very surprising. The way that someone drops off a coffee or um, you know swings by and said, "Hey, I was just in the neighborhood. I wanted to give you a hug. I'm only going to stay a couple minutes, but I just wanted to reach out and say hi." I think it's been that the financial gifts that people have sent. It's all of these, the way that humanity has showed their goodness to me. Of course, my son is my biggest source of comfort. Like waking up in the morning with him, this little, he climbs into my bed at like 5 a.m. every morning. And then I have this little warm thing, and he loves to cuddle. And we lay there and we tickle and laugh. And I probably would have seen that as a chore in the past. Like he doesn't sleep very calmly. So that's like the last hour of my sleep is very disrupted, and he's thrashing around. And I think that those things that we probably would have taken for granted unless we were staring in the face of our own mortality, those things are so beautiful, and they do bring me a lot of comfort. The other night, every night I sing to him, and then we read books, and then I sing as he's falling asleep. And I had a migraine. It's one of the side effects of the chemo that I'm on. And I read him a few pages, and I said, "Okay, we're gonna put the book away." And of course he protests like he does every night. And usually I read a couple more pages. And I was like, "Sorry, buddy, I have a migraine. I can't really read anymore tonight." And he just was like, "It's okay, Mom. You don't have to read anymore." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this kid." So I started singing, and then my lungs have fluid accumulating in them, and right now in Hawaii the volcano is erupting on the Big Island, and so we get what's called fog. It's like volcanic fog, and it makes it kind of hard to breathe. So because I already have compromised lungs, I was singing, and then I started coughing, and my coughs sound really bad. They're like these dry coughs when they come. And so I had to stop singing, and he goes, "It's okay, Mom. You don't have to sing to me tonight." And I was just like, normally you see that as a chore, this 20 minutes that before I get my time, before he's finally in bed and I can finally clean the house or do what I have to do. And it's such a privilege to be able to put a child to bed at night. Yeah.
Yeah. He seems like such a sweetheart. um, for those who are listening who may be dealing with a new diagnosis, or for people who might be caring for somebody, what do you have any, I wish I had known lessons or words of wisdom or practices that you have learned or discovered along the way that you would pass along?
I think I wish I would have cared less about people's feelings, um, and been more authentic to what I was feeling. I really, in the beginning, danced around other people's pain. I diminished my own pain so that other people wouldn't have to worry. It was like, yeah, I'm diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, but the doctor says my chemo is 80% likely to work. And that was the truth, but like I didn't explain 80% likely to put me into remission, and I'm still probably going to die in a few years. And not that I needed other people's, I mean, I did actually. Part of me really did need other people's sympathy. Um, but people asked, and they genuinely wanted to know. And then when I would tell them it's stage 4 cancer, and they'd be like, "Yeah, but chemo's going to work, right?" And I'd be like, "Yeah." And now I don't do that anymore. And I even remember after my first remission, I rung the bell, and everyone was like, "Yay, you did it! You beat cancer!" And I was like, "Yay, I beat cancer!" Like, no, I didn't. And inside, I was just carrying all this. And I don't really care about hurting people's feelings or, because pain is real.
Hmm.
And if we hide it, it's like hiding death from my son. It's the same thing where it's just going to sneak up on us, and then we're all going to be left dealing with the pain that we could have titrated into a long time ago,
Right, right,
just by being honest.
right. I'd like to ask you a couple of direct questions about death, if that's okay. Um, have you thought about where you want to be and how you have you envisioned what the final hours and days will look like? Have you planned that far, or are you not wanting to go there yet?
No, I think about it a lot, actually. I think, let me back up and just say that I had an unmedicated childbirth, and it was one of the harder things I've ever done. And I wouldn't change that, because I think that that is just a sacred rite of passage, and I learned so much and I grew so much from that. And I think that death is another kind of birth. And so, in the way that I really thought about how I wanted birth to look, where I wanted to be, who I wanted with me, that kind of thing, um,
Hmm.
I think about that for my death as well. And I know that when I get to that point um, where it's time for hospice, I want to already have those decisions made. So I'm not trying to make them when I don't feel good. Um, so yes, I grew up in Michigan. As I said, my entire family is there, and I've done some of my treatment there as well, just because I don't have any family here in Hawaii with me,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
I know that I don't want to die in Hawaii. I want to be with my family in Michigan, and
Okay.
that's for me, and it's for them. I think losing a family member is a group experience, the same as
Yeah.
childbirth is for the mom and the baby and the dad and the whole family. And so I want to do it together with my family, um, preferably at home, the same way as I would want a home birth. I, would like to be in the bedroom that I grew up in and have the people that raised me and that I grew up with all around me. And I would hope that I can do it as unmedicated as possible. And I know that that can change in the same way that I was very close to the end with birthing my son, and I was like, "Can I please have the epidural?" And they were like, "No, it's too late for
Too
that.
late now, sister.
Unless you put it in writing. If you ask, don't give it to you." And I was like, "Shoot." So I understand that it's very naive, and I don't know what that pain will feel like. So of course, I could change my mind on that. But yeah, I've thought about it a lot, and I would like to feel what it feels like to die, and be able to have as much cognition of that as possible, because I think that there's things that the dying can teach. And if I'm in my right mind, or not my right, if I'm cognizant, and awake, uh, as long as I can be, I would like to be able to share that with my family.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier, or we touched briefly earlier on about how you were raised Christian. And do you have, I don't know if you're still Christian or not, but do you have any thoughts on um, what's next? Like what's beyond? Or is that,
So I am still Christian, and a lot more. So I will always be Christian. That's my heritage. Jesus is my guru. I just believe in a much wider view of Christianity than I was raised with. And I do have a lot of thoughts on the afterlife. I would love to say that I know with certainty. I don't. And I don't think anyone who says they do, I mean, good for them. I love that they have that comfort. I don't believe in a shiny city in the sky that we go to. And I don't know if if you get one body or if your soul gets many. I'm open to that possibility. But I do believe something comes next. whether it's some sort of soul realm or you're in a soul realm for a while and then you come back in a body. I don't know that. But I believe that the work that I'm doing now to change patterns and beliefs and cut ancestral ties, I believe that that work not only is going to follow my ancestors into this physical realm, but it will follow me and my soul into the next realm. And so that's why I think it's really important that I'm doing that sort of spiritual healing while I can, while I'm still in this body. And I also, um, I believe that it is a better place in some ways, that we are going to be more unified and we are going to feel more of the trueness of love. And I hope for all that. And that seems true to me uh, from life experience, from religions I've studied, from plant medicine ceremonies I've done. All of it seems to point toward that. And I also know that based on my life, pain is real, life is hard, and I think that the afterlife probably will contain some of that as well.
Last two questions I have. What has been the single most important lesson you've learned throughout this entire experience?
I'm just going to go with the first thing that comes to my head, and that is the word boundaries. It seems like a lot of what, because my cancer is in the 1% of cancer that is truly genetic. I was living a very healthy lifestyle. It wasn't the food that I ate or the air that I breathed or the pesticide. It was something spiritual that was passed down to me. And I truly believe for me, it was not having boundaries and being codependent. And I don't know if I have time to undo all of that, but when you get a diagnosis and you're going to be in a lot of pain, you have to hold boundaries with people on a regular basis and disappoint people and let people down and protect your own energy and take care of yourself first. And we hear that a lot, especially as mothers, like, oh, put on your own oxygen mask. But we don't do it. We still take on so much more than someone should physically endure ever. And I have really pared my life down to just the essentials: sunshine, clean food, time with my son, creative projects. And even even financially, like work, I work very little now, and I only do work that I really love, and that even if I wasn't getting paid for it, it would be an equal energetic exchange because I'm getting so much from doing that kind of work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just holding boundaries around where I put my energy, even like the things that I buy, I think, is this going to take energy from me? Am I going to have to find a place to store it? Am I going to be moving it around my house? I I think about every decision in terms of how much energy is this going to take from me and how much is it going to bring me in return.
Yep. That's an interesting and thoughtful lens. It's yeah. Last question. Are you scared to die? Why or why not?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, definitely. My biggest fear is leaving my son, uh, and the pain that he's going to have to endure. I I am I also feel anxiety about leaving my loved ones, but I know they're adults and they get through it. But I am scared about leaving my son. I'm not with his father, and I wonder how his father will do it. I wonder if his father can do it, and if he may end up losing both his mother and his father because he may have to be raised by grandparents, and so that it's terrifying. And then for
Is that
myself,
something that you're able to decide now, or is that something that is? going to?
Not necessarily. I mean, I'm sure if I wanted to fight a battle around it, I might be
Mm,
able to, but I
yeah.
don't feel like that strongly that that's necessary. You know, if he were like a drug addict on the street or something like that, then maybe that we would need to do that. But he's not a bad person. Um, um, but I'm also scared. I'm scared to leave my body. Like, I'm scared about not having my five senses anymore, about not being able to physically experience this beautiful world. And I think it would be, I'm courageous at the same time as being scared. I don't think you can be bold and courageous without being scared, because then it's just confidence. I don't know. That's something different. But I actually really like to do things that scare me, and I'm really honest about the fact that, like, I'm terrified and I'm doing this anyway. And so, yeah, I'm scared. Yeah, it is. It's terrifying. It's terrifying to die because you don't know. And the unknown is always scary, and this is the biggest unknown that in the world and in life is death.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's scary and it's exciting, and I'm looking forward to it in many ways.
Yeah. All right. So how are you feeling today? Like, how are you feeling overall? You feel good and
I,
strong? Are you surfing still? Are you able to do that?
yeah, it's kind of weird. I feel relatively to myself, not too good, but relative to maybe a general population, I'm actually functioning at a high level. So I am surfing. I am still surfing waves big enough to scare me. But I had to skip this week. We had the biggest swell that we've had for the year came, and it would be a swell that normally would be, I would paddle out and I may or may not get a wave because it's that big. But I couldn't go at all because my lungs are a little bit too full of fluid right now. And I went the night before the swell had peaked, and I noticed that my I was getting some chest pains because I'm not breathing well, and my heart also, there's fluid building around my heart. So my heart was just working super hard, and I didn't want to put myself, because when the waves are that big, they can be fatal. And so I didn't want to put myself in a situation where I didn't physically have the strength to get myself out of it, or where I did get myself out of it, but my heart couldn't hold up. So
Mm.
in a way, yeah, I feel good. I'm still surfing these waves, and I went to a workout this morning, and I, completed the whole thing, but it was super challenging for me. Um, yeah, and it's just heavy just knowing that, like, if you look at the graph of where my blood work is going, it's not in the right direction. So we'll have to change treatment here soon, and then you don't know if that treatment's going to work until a couple of months in. So you have to get sick again and hope that it works. And this is, we're getting to the point. The first few times with treatment, it was like we knew they would work, and then almost like an antibiotic, you build up a resistance, and so you have to change treatment. And so we're getting to the point where um, it's more like the Wild West. It's like, okay, well, this is documented, this has evidence, we knew that would work, but now we're out of those options. So now we just start trying things. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. And so I'm carrying a lot of heaviness about that. I have peace, like every time that wave of anxiety, like, oh my gosh, my numbers are going in the wrong direction. I'm going to have to get sick. I'm that much closer to death. Like, I'm able to sit with that, let the wave pass, take a deep breath, and then, like, be back in the present moment. And then again, it's that sweet, sweet present moment. And it's so beautiful. It's sweeter. The closer I get to the end, the sweeter the present moment gets. And it's
Yeah.
such a beautiful place to be. And it's heavy at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I am sending you nothing but well wishes and love, and just all the best. I can't thank you enough for being on the show. And for listeners, I will put Melanie's Instagram and website on the show notes. And Melanie, I just thank you so much, and I wish nothing but the best for you and your family.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me today.
All right. If you like
I'll
this
try.
episode of Dying to Know More, be sure to give it a like and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode.